Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crowd Chatter podcast. And today is going to be a video on the NFL Draft Day trades. There was an insane amount. So we're just going to get this started. Let me hold on 1 second here. All right, that should be good. No, whatever. We're gonna get this started here. So a couple of these first two or three, I think, these first few are actually going to be before the draft actually started. Because if you guys didn't know, I did go over like all these trades once, like the ones that already happened. Like this is the last one I went over, which was Tyreek Hill being traded to the Dolphins. You guys didn't see it. That's what Kansas City got. Miami only got Tyreek Hill, but that was what was received in that trade. But draft day was absolutely insane. So we're just going to go to the first one here, which was between the New Orleans Saints and the Philadelphia Eagles. This one was an interesting one. This happened like a couple weeks before the actual draft, of where it was just a bunch of picks that got traded around. New Orleans Saints got number 16, and I'll go over like how where all the picks ended up, because some of them didn't actually end up completely with these teams. But New Orleans Saints got number 16 and number 19, two first-round picks, of which the Eagles had this year. They got 16 and 19 in this year's draft, along with 194. And then the Eagles in return, they got number 16 from this year's draft, the Saints first rounder, a third round pick of being number 101, a seventh round pick and being number 237, a first rounder next year, and then a second rounder after that year. So a 2024 second rounder, a 2023 first rounder, a first rounder being number 18, the third rounder being 101, the seventh being 237. Saints get two firsts and the sixth. Eagles win this trip, and I'm gonna say like who wins each deal. Eagles win this by half a mile. You already had three first round picks, so instead, why don't you trade one of those first rounders, get a third out of the deal, and then you end up getting another first rounder next year, and then you even get a second rounder the year after that. I think the Eagles easily won this trade. I love this deal for Philadelphia. Well done by the Eagles in this one. Then the next one, we have the Miami Dolphins trading with the New England Patriots. Rare intra-division trade here, with the Miami Dolphins getting a 2023 third-round pick. The Patriots getting Devontae Parker and a fifth-round pick this year, which was number 158. Devontae Parker had a good season for the Miami Dolphins. I believe it was 2 years ago, but he's a decent wide receiver. It's something that the New England Patriots are desperately looking for. And for New England to make sense for Miami, I think this is kind of a wash, because New England does need a wide receiver, and they are desperately trying to find one for Miami. You get a third round pick out of it. I'd say in that scenario, Miami kind of won because they got a third round pick, which is probably a little high for Devontae Parker. But either way, well done by the Miami Dolphins. Interesting to trade with the Patriots, but they still got a nice return. Then also the Patriots made a deal with the Houston Texans, where Texans would get a fifth rounder and they would get a sixth and a seventh. I mean, who really cares? And that's going to be all for the pre-draft trades. Now we go to the actual draft itself and all the different trades that were made. So the first one was the New Orleans Saints moving up with the Washington Commanders, not the football team, the Washington Commanders, where they traded up 5 spots to get Chris Olave, Washington would trade down 3 spots. They would go and get Jahan Dotson. They would also get a third and a third of which they used on Alabama running back Ryan Robinson, and a fourth of which they sent away to the Panthers, of which apparently got Brandon Smith. I don't mind this trade. I don't like Washington's pick that much. I like Jahan Dotson, but I don't think number 16 was the greatest spot to take him. He might end up being a good receiver, but I mean, there's better receivers that I just thought it was a little early for Jahan Dotson. Plus, I like Treylon Burks better. I think that would have been a better pick for Washington, but they take Jahan Dotson instead. Brian Robinson's a good running back. I say this is kind of I guess this is a win for New Orleans. You really do need a wide receiver. You really need a wide receiver because you don't really have a receiving core, and Michael Thomas never stays healthy. Chris Olave will 100% help with that. For Washington, just not the greatest picks. I mean, not the greatest selections, I should say. I mean, they had good picks, but they just didn't take great players. Then we had the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings making a trade, which this has shocked everybody. But the Detroit Lions, our Detroit Lions, trade up 20 spots in the first round, sending the Vikings numbers 32, 34, and 66, a first, second, and third, all in this year, for the Vikings' first and second, of which their first round pick, which everyone wondered why they move up 20 spots, was for Alabama wide receiver Jameson Williams. Transfer from Ohio State, was incredible for the Crimson Tide. Blazing speed at 6'2", 180-ish pounds. So basically my frame, just a lot more in shape. But Jameson Williams, he also tore his ACL in the national championship game, of which they played against Georgia. So there's a huge question mark there of what will Jameson Williams be when he comes back from the torn ACL. Is he going to be still with the same blazing speed of which he had, which is almost Tyreek Hill speed pretty much? Or is he just going to be another guy and end up being a complete bust? Who really knows? He could be a really good draft pick, but that's a major question mark. And then also with their second round pick, the Lions took Josh Pascal, a defensive end tackle out of Kentucky, 3-time captain. Looks like a pretty good defensive end. Looks like he'll end up being a pretty good player. Don't mind either selection by the Lions. For the Vikings, they end up taking Lewis Cine with the Lions' 32nd pick, which was from the Rams. And then they trade away 34 to the Packers, which was also really weird. We'll talk about that trade later. And then the Vikings also got that third round pick of which they used on linebacker Brian Asamoah. That name sounds familiar. Don't know where he's from. But this trade overall, I mean, since the Vikings trade away, it's hard to judge this one because it really depends on what Jameson Williams does. If Jameson Williams ends up being basically a bigger Tyreek Hill, then I think the Lions win this deal. And it really depends also on Josh Pascal. If those two end up being really, really good players, then I think the Lions win this trade. But at this point, it's hard to say. I'm calling it a wash because I do like Lewis Cine, safety from Georgia. Brian Asamoah. That sounds really familiar. I don't know what's going to happen if I do that. But then the Vikings also made that interesting trade with the Packers to let them get a wide receiver, which was really just crazy to me. But I'm just going to call it a wash now. Very hard to say who actually wins that trade. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles trading with the Houston Texans. the Eagles want to move up 2 spots. They want to leapfrog the Ravens to go get the 13th pick. I think they kind of got screwed up because the Lions traded up, and then the Eagles did immediately afterward because they probably figured, hey, Lions aren't taking a because they probably figured the Lions wouldn't take a wide receiver. They need a quarterback, or maybe they're getting Kyle Hamilton. They did not expect them probably to take a wide receiver, but they did. Because the Eagles traded for the number 13 pick before the Lions actually made their pick. So I think the Eagles kind of like, oh, crap. But in any case, they took with number 13, Jordan Davis, while the Houston Texans traded down to 15th. They'd take Keon Green, guard out of Texas A&M, I believe. I believe that's right. And all the other picks of which they received, they traded away. So they didn't keep any of those other picks. So who wins this deal? I guess Philly. I mean, you move up 2 spots. You don't get your wide receiver, but you get a massive man who moves like a deer for his speed. Yeah, I would say the Eagles win this trade. You get Jordan Davis. That's a good defensive tackle. When you see someone who's 6'6", 341 pounds, and is running a 4.81 40 time, that is terrifying. Even if he did play like only 50% of the snaps at Georgia, that's still horrifying to think about. But the Eagles, I'd say the Eagles win that trade. Here was an interesting one. Arizona trading with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens would get number 23, 23. They would get number 23 from the Arizona Cardinals, of which they would trade to Buffalo, who took the Florida corner, Kare Elam. But the Arizona Cardinals would receive Marquis Brown and a 3rd-round pick this year, which they took Miles Sanders. The Eagle pick isn't here yet. Okay. So this is an interesting deal. I mean, a 1st-round pick is a lot, but they got a 3rd-rounder out of it, too. Marquis Brown, he's kind of been Marquis Brown, he's been kind of been inconsistent in all of his years with the Ravens. This obviously puts the Ravens back into the wide receiver discussion, as they certainly could use one. But for Arizona, this is an interesting deal because they already had a lot of receivers. They did lose Christian Kirk. But they re-signed A.J. Green. They have Rondale Moore. They have Andy Isabella. And then you go and trade for Marquis Brown. I mean, the only thing that this makes me think is that Arizona is just trying to make Kyler Murray happy because everyone knows the relationship right now between Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals is a little iffy at best. So I'm just curious what Brown's going to do with Arizona, as they're definitely going to need him now because DeAndre Hopkins got suspended for the first 6 games of the year. So they're really going to need Marquis Brown now. That the connection between Kyler Murray and Marquis Brown is going to be desperately needed. They're going to need that badly. So we're going to see how that works out for them, but interesting trade. And then the Eagles also shocked the world. They did this before the Cardinals made their trade. But the Philadelphia Eagles got A.J. Brown. Yes, they got A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans, where Titans would get a 1st and a 3rd in this year's draft. With the 1st-round pick, they took what they're probably hoping is A.J. Brown's replacement in Treylon Burks. And they would also get a 3rd-round pick, of which they later trade away to the New York Jets. But this just, I could not understand this trade. I was like, why? Why would you trade away your best wide receiver? I mean, obviously everyone's like, well, maybe the Titans didn't want to pay him. He's a great wide receiver. He's 24 years old. Pay the guy his money. I mean, seriously, he's your best wide receiver. You're a team that already is very run heavy, and you don't really have another wide receiver. A.J. Brown is your entire passing game. And you got rid of Julio Jones because he wasn't playing well. You released him. So you only had A.J. Brown. But now you're just going to trade him away? I mean, a first and a third is a decent return. I mean, you maybe could have gotten a little more, but it's very a mind-boggling trade. And of course, the Eagles are all over it because they need a receiver like A.J. Brown. They don't have one. Now you got a receiver duo of Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. I mean, that's incredible. And so now Jalen Hurts has two really nice options. We'll see if he can actually throw to them. But for Tennessee, I think Philadelphia easily won this trade. They won this by a mile again. Then for the Titans, you better hope that Treylon Burks is gonna equal what AJ Brown was. Otherwise, this is gonna look like a terrible trade. Now I do think Treylon Burks will be really good, but just not curious trade. Very curious trade. This shocked me. And of course, after this trade, A.J. Brown, he received 4 years, $100 million with the Philadelphia Eagles. He also got $57 million guaranteed. So, yeah, just very confusing. Then we had, this is all still in the first round, by the way. This is all still first round picks. The Kansas City Chiefs would make a trade with the New England Patriots. They'd move up 8 spots to number 21 to go get corner Trent McDuffie. The New England Patriots would trade back 8 spots. They'd go to number 29. In typical New England fashion, they always trade back. And they would take Cole Strange, which was a really strange pick. I'm sorry, that was horrible. That's horrible. Then they also got a third and a fourth. They eventually traded the third to the Carolina Panthers, as you can see, and they took Jack Jones with the other pick. Kansas City won this trade just because of what New England ended up taking. I mean, Trent McDuffie, that's a good corner. Kansas City desperately needed secondary. For the Patriots, what on earth are you taking? Who the heck is Cole Strange? I mean, he's a guard out of Chattanooga. They said. I think he was a center, but just what is New England doing? But I mean, we all know the Patriots are the Patriots. This is the Patriot way. They do what they do. Doesn't ever make sense, but then they sometimes end up being good. So, or they normally end up being good picks. So, I don't know. Maybe Bill Belichick knows something that we don't. I don't know. We'll find out, I suppose. That was that pick. Then we had another trade between the Ravens and the Bills. The Bills moved up 2 spots as they leapfrog the Cowboys to go get Kier Elam. The Ravens, who got that pick from the Cardinals in the Marquis Brown trade, would trade back 2 spots. They would get center Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, and then would also, with their 4th round selection, take Jordan Stout, punter from Penn State. I think Baltimore wins this. I mean, Tyler Linderbaum, that's an awesome center from Iowa. Very good player. Jordan Stout was a good punter at Penn State. Will he end up being Baltimore's starter? I don't know, but he was good at Penn State. I will say that. Don't know why he didn't take Matt Araiza, but, I mean, Jordan Stout's pretty good. Then Buffalo, Kier Elam, that's a good pick, but, I mean, I think the Ravens win that trade. Then we had a trade between the Tennessee Titans and the New York Jets. The Jets would receive a first rounder and a third rounder. They'd take 26 and 101, of which with 26 they would steal Jermaine Johnson. Awesome pick by them. I have no idea how he got to 26, but the Jets swooped in and took him while they could. And with their third round pick, they took Jeremy Rutger, which actually the Titans got that pick from the Eagles in the A.J. Brown trade. And the Titans would receive a second round pick, of which they would take corner from Auburn, Roger McCreary. They would also get Nicholas Fiti Freary and Kyle Phillips. So with their third and fifth round picks, New York wins this trade. You got Jermaine Johnson, who's an awesome defensive end from Florida State, and then you got good old Jeremy Rutgers. I'm sorry, I was saying it wrong. Rutgers. I don't really know who that is, but Jermaine Johnson, that's the big name in this trade. Well done by the Jets of moving up 9 spots. Go and get your guy. Awesome deal by them. Roger McCreary, that's still a good corner from Auburn for Tennessee, but Jermaine Johnson, that was an incredible trade by the Jets. Very smart move. And this is also a smart move by the Jacksonville Jaguars, moving up 6 spots to go and get Devin Lloyd, a linebacker out of Utah, who almost slipped to the second round. Really surprised by that. And the Tampa Bay Bucks, they would get a second, a fourth, and a sixth out of the trade. With their second, they would take Logan Hall. With their fourth, they would take Cade Otton. And then with their sixth, they would trade it to Buffalo, who traded up to smartly take Matt Araiza. Good pick. For Jacksonville, though, Devin Lloyd, that's an impact player. That's a great linebacker out of Utah. I like this trade for Jacksonville. Go up, trade a couple spots, get your best guy. Get a good linebacker, get a guy who can make an impact right off the bat. You've already been splurging in free agency. You need some good players. Devin Lloyd can certainly be one of those good players. Logan Hall is he's a solid player out of Houston, good defensive player for Tampa Bay. Funny stat about Logan Hall. Just hear me on this. Logan Hall has not. Tom Brady has been in the NFL longer than Logan Hall has been alive. Yes, so Tampa Bay's second round pick, Logan Hall, has not even been alive as long as Tom Brady has been playing in the NFL. That's a crazy stat. But anyways. Moving on to the next trade, of which that was the day one trade. So now we move to the curious Minnesota trade, of where Green Bay would move up 19 spots with the Minnesota Vikings. Another divisional trade here. 19 spots for the Green Bay Packers to take the receiver they wanted. They got Christian Watson from North Dakota State, and then Minnesota would take Alec Pierce, wide receiver, forget where, and then Ed Ingram with their 2 second-round picks. But what on earth are the Vikings thinking? Why on earth would you trade with the Packers to give them a wide receiver of which they don't really have? Why would this trade makes no sense to me? Because why? Why would you give your biggest rival a receiver? It doesn't make sense. I think Green Bay wins this one by like I said again. Green Bay wins this by half a mile. Vikings are absurd. They're crazy. I would never do this trade because I know exactly what it means. Yeah, you go and get a good wide receiver. Heck no. Someone else wants to trade for it. Fine, but I ain't giving you a good receiver. It doesn't make sense to me. Not a good trade by the Vikings. I think Packers win that easily. And then the two New York teams made a trade, with the Giants and the Jets making a trade. The Jets trading up 2 spots to go and get the best running back in the class, Iowa State running back Breece Hall. I like this deal for the Jets. For the Giants, not bad trade either. They did actually trade number 38 to Atlanta, who got Arnold Ebiketie, a defensive end from Penn State, and Micah McFadden. Wow, that's another familiar name. But good trade for both sides. I don't think either team loses this one. Jets take a chance on Breece Hall. Giants to get another extra pick. Why not? They don't really need a running back. It's a good trade by both sides. I say a wash. I think both teams win this trade. And then here's the Atlanta trade, of where Atlanta traded up 5 spots to go get that Penn State defense, to get said Penn State defensive end, Arnold Ebiketie. And the New York Giants would receive 43 and would also get a 4th-round pick. Their number 43 pick did take Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver from Kentucky. He's an okay player, not great. And then with their 4th-round pick, they take Dane Belton. Don't really know who that is. I give this one to Atlanta. I like Arnold Ebiketie, defensive end from Penn State. I like him. I think this is a good trade by Atlanta. For the Giants, it's not terrible, but Wan'Dale Robinson ain't great. You miss a chance in a good defensive end. I mean, I guess you already had one, but I guess it's more of a wash, I'd say. And then the Vikings traded again. They traded with the Indianapolis Colts, who would receive the number 53, 77, and 192, a 2nd, 3rd, and 6th. The Vikings would trade up 11 spots for Andrew Booth. They would also get a 4th-round pick, of which they traded to Las Vegas. And the Colts would also get Bernhard Raymond, the tackle from Central Michigan. And the Colts would also get Andrew Ogletree, a tight end. Vikings, they got Andrew Booth. Not a bad trade. I think for the Vikings, Andrew Booth, that's a good corner. You need corners. Good trade. More of a wash, I guess I'll say. Right here, you got the Texans and the Browns. You see the Texans trade up to get John Mechie. They traded up 24 spots for John Mechie. Quite the trade there. Cleveland also got Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle from Oklahoma. And they also got Cade York, good kicker from LSU. Not a bad trade by either team. Once again, we got another trade. Kansas City, New England, Tyquan Thornton, the good Baylor receiver. Kansas City ended up getting Sky Moore and trade away their other pick, of which they got from New England. At this point, I'm just going through these at this point because there's so much. Tampa Bay traded up 3 spots to go get Luke Godeke. I think that's a guard from. I think that's the other. No, I don't think it. I don't know. He's a guard. I forget where he's from. He might be Central Michigan. I'm not sure. And then Buffalo traded their other pick, and they took Matt Araiza, the other one they received from Tampa Bay. Cincinnati, they traded up 3 spots, and they traded with said Buffalo Bills. They got corner Cam Taylor Britt, and the Bills got James Cook, Georgia running back, and Luke Tenuta. All right. And then Houston, it keeps going. Houston traded for Christian Harris, Bama linebacker. Yeah, okay. I'm not really going to go through all these. I'm just going to... here's a big one, actually. The Tennessee Titans trading up for Malik Willis, trading a 3rd and a 5th to the Vegas Raiders. That's a good trade. Tennessee, that's a really good quarterback who somehow fell to the 3rd round. That's a great trade by the Titans to go and get that guy before somebody else did. And then the Carolina Panthers, this is another big one. The Carolina Panthers, they traded up a massive amount of spots to go and get a quarterback. As they would get Matt Corral, as they were shocked, hey, there's a quarterback still there. Let's go get him. And New England would take a different quarterback with their other selection, being the Western Kentucky quarterback. And Carolina gave the Patriots a 3rd rounder in next year's draft. This one, the Colts would jump the Lions to go and get Nick Cross, safety from Maryland. They would give the Broncos a 5th rounder this year and then a 3rd rounder in next year's draft. That pissed me off. I wanted Nick Cross. And then you got some other trades here. You can kind of see what guys are we're getting, but overall, there was some interesting trades in this one. There was so many trades in this draft. It was insane, especially that first round. Jerome Ford is a decent running back for the Browns. Bad trade, but there's so many trades in this draft. And here's another one. Sam Howell, actually, that's a good player. The football team, Washington Commanders, that's their name. They got Sam Howell and Cole Turner from their 2 5th-round picks, and they gave the Panthers a 4th and a 6th. Wow, that's all right. That's not bad at all. But you can see just how many trades were made. Just trade after trade after trade in this draft. Oh, Raiders got Zamir White. That's a good running back. But it never ended. Trade. It is people were wheeling and dealing in this year's draft, and it was just pure chaos. Julian Kinner, that's a good tackle from Kentucky, yeah. And it kept going. So really, I am very impressed. But okay, that's an interesting one. Oh yeah, Troy Hill. Old Rams corner, went back to L.A. and the Browns. They gave him a 5th-rounder in next year's draft. Like I said, though, just wheeling and dealing with people in this draft, and it never ended. So, I mean, a lot of these trades were, I mean, these are all that's kind of like who cares at this point, but there were so many deals, and it was absurd how many trades were made, um, and it never ended. And like it's still going, but I think this had to have been like a record amount of trades in the draft, because it kept going on and on and on. The Lions made one, and on and on. And like I said, it never stopped. But the first round was really the big day for all the trades. Um, and that is actually it. But the first round was the first day for all the trades. That was the big day for it. And then after that, it kind of just. The second day was still some decent ones in the second round, maybe even the third, but obviously after that, it kind of gets to the point where, like, yeah, who cares? But that's it for today. That's it for this video. I still have to go through the draft classes so much. But that's it for this one. I will see you guys in the next one. Adios, everyone.